Welcome to the Silicate, Magnesium, and Conservation of Mass video activity. If you have not completed the pre-lab question, pause the video and complete it now. When you're ready, start the video again. All right, let's begin with part 1. Let's take a look at the materials and equipment that we'll be using. And the first thing we want to do is measure one small medicine cup with approximately 12.5 liters of water. Here's the mass for that cup of water. That would be the first entry on your lab report under part 1. If you need to pause the video, you can do so at any time. Next, we have the mass of the magnesium chloride pellets. This is a small scoop of those pellets, and this would be the next entry on your lab report. Pause the video to calculate the total mass before mixing. When you're ready, start the video again. Now it's time to combine our magnesium chloride pellets and the water. So I'm adding it into the cup, and now I'm just going to stir with my wooden stirrer, and I'm just going to keep stirring it until they're almost dissolved. Let's take a look at the mass of our water and almost dissolved pellets. I've got my scale turned on and make sure it's zeroed out. I'm going to place the cup up on the scale, and here is the total mass after mixing. Pause the video to complete part 1 on your lab report. When you're ready, start the video again. Part 2 is a continuation of what we did in part 1. The solution that we mixed in part 1 I have set aside for now. We'll come back to it in a minute. So let's get started with some of the preliminary calculations of some of the other substances. First, we have the mass of a small medicine cup that is empty. That is the first entry under part 2. Pause the video if you need to. Start it when you're ready. Next is the same small medicine cup with a small amount of sodium silicate solution. This would be entry number 2 under part 2 on your lab report. Pause the video if you need to. When you're ready, start it again. Next, I'm bringing back our solution from part 1, and I'm adding 1 drop of blue food coloring to the solution. All right, so here's my 1 drop, and I'm going to stir it with the wooden stirrer. And I'm going to apologize that my hand is in the way for most of this. At the end of this video, I have still shots of what was happening at each phase, where you can kind of see in between my hand here. So there's the stirring. This is the part 1 solution with 1 drop of food coloring. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that sodium silicate solution and add it, and you can immediately see that something was happening. And I'm just using my stirrer to mix the 2 solutions together. and you can see what's happening. I did scrape as much of the substance off back into the cup as much as I could so we could get an accurate reading once we put it on the scale. And here's the mass of our mixture. While stirring it in the cup, it was soft and moist and pliable. But once I pulled some of it out onto the paper towel that you can see here, it was more of a solid crystal type substance. Pause the video to complete part 2. When you're ready, start the video again. Let's see what we can do with this in part 3 by creating some imitation coral. But first we need to get some measurements, so get your pencil ready. First up is the mass of the sodium silicate solution and the bottle. Next we have the empty bottle. And now we have the bottle filled with the same amount of plain water. Here is the large plastic container that we'll be using to create our imitation coral. All right, let's get started setting it up. I'm taking the sodium silicate solution and pouring it in to the large container, and I'm pouring all of it in. Next, I'm taking the bottle with the same amount of plain water, pouring it in as well. And then I'm going to gently stir it up with my wooden paddle stirrer. Okay, we'll let that set. Let's get another batch of our magnesium chloride solution mixed up. This is one of the empty medicine cups. This is the same medicine cup filled with water. And here is a scoop of the magnesium chloride pellets. Just like before, I'm going to add the pellets to the water and gently stir it until most of the pellets have dissolved. I'm going to add 1 drop of blue food coloring to our solution just so it makes it easier to see, and I'm going to stir it up gently with the pipette. Now for this part, we're not going to use the entire container. We're only going to use a small amount of liquid in the pipette. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill that pipette as full as I can get it, as you can see here. And now I'm going to get the mass of the pipette and the amount of liquid inside. Here is the mass of the empty pipette, and then as you just saw, here's the mass with the liquid. And now I'm going to take that pipette and I'm going to lower it down into our container all the way to the bottom, and I'm going to attempt to slowly release it out of the pipette to create an imitation piece of coral. And I'm not real great at it, but you get the idea. With all of our mixing and stirring and dissolving that we did, let's see how our conservation of mass turned out. And now it's time for you to complete your lab report. Good luck.